What's up, you guys? Michael Streight again here with the Proper Form Podcast. Excited for this next episode with Joseph from CollinCounty.com. He lives here in McKinney, Texas, and has brought to life this amazing platform to help advertise and spotlight some of the amazing small businesses and events that are within the Collin County area. He's actually been here for only about 4 or 5 years, but the impact and the heart he has just through his background of editing and video and writing, it's really cool to just hear someone else come into this space in Collin County, start a small business that is leveraging and helping other small businesses and events come to life in the Collin County area. Check out this awesome episode and hear more how you could be a consumer to the amazing spaces here in the Collin County area, but also as a business owner, how you could partner with CollinCounty.com to even advertise your business. What's up, you guys? Michael Streight with the Proper Form Podcast. Excited for the new year of 2025 and just what it's going to bring for all of us. Really excited for just growth, expansion, evolution, and really pumped to dive into this episode with my buddy Joseph from CollinCounty.com. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Great to be here.
Yeah. Well, you're actually the first to be a part and witness the brand new kind of updated studio.
I like it.
What do you think?
It's awesome. Love
Thank
the
you.
vibe, love the feel, sets the tone for the whole thing.
Yeah, and we kind of hope that helps set the tone for our conversations that we have in here, for the people that get to leverage and use this and just kind of create space and content for themselves, their businesses, and of course for our podcast. But man, I want to kind of get right to it. It's kind of unique. We actually met through another business colleague
hmm
that's in the networking group that I'm in, McKinney Downtown Networking Group.
hmm
And then you graciously invited me onto y'all's podcast.
Yes, sir.
And so I would love to kind of just get to, I think you use the term and I've used the term, my clients have used the term, the big, hairy, audacious goal
Mm.
that you guys might have over at CollinCounty.com. Just from what I know, and then we'd love for you to dive more into that. What do you guys do? How do you do it? What's kind of the big goal that you guys have? And what's the value that you bring to your role and how you help evolve y'all's reach?
Wow. That's great. So at CollinCounty.com, our goal is to promote the best businesses, people, events, and just stories of Collin County, Texas.
Cool.
And a lot of that revolves around business leaders and community leaders
Mm,
specifically, whether that is someone who owns a local service based business or someone who is leading a nonprofit.
yeah.
Or this last week, we interviewed the county sheriff.
Wow.
Who is doing incredible work, equine therapy for veterans who have come back from war. I mean, just all kinds of things that a lot of people don't know about
Yeah.
until you get those people in studio just like this
Yep.
and you get to know people. And
Yes.
there are so many cool things going on in Collin County, even more than most people know.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, someone recently said, I mean, like there's so many different perspectives and people and thoughts and opinions, but it's like when you really sit down with someone
Yes.
and have a conversation and let some walls down, you can actually find so much more common ground
hmm
and like-mindedness where just kind of doubts, opinions on the other person across the room just really start to kind of melt away.
hmm
And
hmm
you guys are really helping bring a lot of those stories to the spotlight and to the light, whether those are businesses, business leaders. Um, how did you come on to CollinCounty.com and what was your story? I know you shared a tad bit when I was on the podcast, but could you share kind of why you're here, why you
Sure.
feel
Sure.
called to be a part of that,
hmm
and kind of your story personally?
Absolutely. So I moved to Collin County almost 4 years ago. This
Nice.
coming April would be 4 years. And I'm one of the many transplants from out of
Yeah.
state.
Welcome.
Yeah, and it's been wonderful. Really fell in love with Collin County. I knew two sets of friends that lived in McKinney, Texas, specifically, which is the house seat of Collin County. And they had been telling me about Collin County for a few years. And so when the pandemic hit, decided to make the move, ended up here in the McKinney area and just started to notice right away, wow, I love this area. I love just the neighborhoods. I love business. I love the people, love the culture. And so it was last year, actually early last year, that I began to think about, man, I would love to create some sort of local media publication. I had always wanted to do that in the past, but now that I landed in Collin County, there's just something about this area that just said, man, we should do something that highlights the business owners, the community leaders, the people, the neighborhoods, the businesses, just everything that's going on here, kind of at that next level. So I began to go online and kind of look for URLs, and I'm one of those, people that probably has a problem. I have too many URLs that I
Dude,
purchased over
can
the
you
years.
share how many you have?
Man, I don't know. I literally have 2 accounts. I'm probably close to 100.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably in there.
I am in that weird realm with you. My wife thinks I'm crazy, and I'm actually about to buy like 2 or 3 more. But
Yeah.
I'm creeping up at almost 40
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
domains.
I've joked with some other entrepreneurs that we should start like an accountability group, like
Yes.
Domains Anonymous or something like that, The problem is though, is I end up encouraging people, like if you tell me your idea,
Yes.
I'll tell you to buy it. So
Yes.
that's the problem.
You're like, come on. Yeah.
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 So
That's why
yeah.
my wife is cautious to more friends of like you that for me to
Yes,
make rather
exactly.
than some random person
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we just feed each other.
Exactly. I mean, dude, it's $20. You can cancel it next year if it
Yeah.
doesn't work out for you. So
Awesome.
anyway, back to the story of that.
Yeah.
I ended up coming to my surprise. Okay, so I Googled, I thought, well, I want to do Collin County something, Collin County businesses, Collin County this. And just on a whim, I just typed in collincounty.com,
Yeah.
thinking there's no way in the world this isn't already a thing,
Yeah.
right? Given how popular and how robust this area is. And lo and behold, it was available. And it had not been turned into anything. Somebody was sitting on it. It was very expensive. I'll just say that. But it was absolutely worth it. And so I bought the URL. We started creating a website.
Wow.
We launched a podcast. We launched an email newsletter that goes out to many thousands of people across the county every weekend. And then are building out a couple other things like social media and events on top of that. So it's been a wild ride of almost a year of utilizing that brand to promote other people, which is really my heart. That's what I love to do, is to take media and marketing and promote what other people are doing.
Yeah. I mean, you're using your brand to be the vehicle to help promote and bring to light other brands.
Yes.
And that's only been within a year.
Yes. Yes.
That's crazy. Could you kind of share just maybe some of your, if you want to say, dark moments where you just feel like you're going down a black hole, and then just some of it, like the roller coaster of probably what the last year has been I mean, all those things that you just said you created and have started the website, the podcast. Now you guys are getting into that social media piece.
Yeah.
I think that also helps add validation to you guys and the value that you're bringing to these business owners. I mean, honestly, like myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So could you just share like just some wisdom and encouragement on just taking that next step?
So it started with a lot of excitement, obviously. When you come across, we just talked about URLs. When you come across a great URL, especially one with real domain authority, it's very exciting. So it started out with a lot of excitement. One of my close friends, I remember sitting with him at a local coffee shop in McKinney, and I remember turning the laptop around, and I had already built sort of a mock website. And just the look on his face was just like, what in the world? How did you get a hold of this? And then that turned into more content creation. We launched the email newsletter shortly after that. So anybody that goes to collincounty.com, you can opt into our, our weekly newsletter.
Yeah.
And, it started off with a lot of excitement. We started getting some, I cold called some potential advertisers. They said yes immediately. People were very interested in being a part of it. So if you're asking, about that journey, right? What does that journey look like? A little bit of the ups and downs. If there are any downs, I would say it's in dealing with discouragement at times when it comes to maintaining consistency and content creation. Because when you're first starting out any endeavor, podcast, email newsletter, website, social media, whatever, you're starting at zero, essentially, right? So you've got to start building listenership, viewership, users, and you really have to have a passion for the content that you're creating. It has to matter to you and your team. And one guy that joined me early on, his name is Nick. He's a part of my team now. I mean, he told me from the beginning, he said, man, even if I never get paid from this, I want to be a part of this because I love writing. I love writing articles. I love interviewing people. And I was like, yes, that's the kind of person I need on my team.
Yeah.
Someone that realizes that at the end of the day, we're adding a lot of value to our community. And so,
Hmm.
yes, it is a business and it does cash flow. Even if it didn't, we'd still be doing it. And that's the sign that it's your real passion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is really good. It can be hard not maybe being the business owner or working for a business to have that type of passion.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much full circle in that kind of surrender and appreciation of the purpose
Yes.
that really brings back around so much more fruit
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
joy and like gratitude
Yes.
for the work that you did, the impact that you've made.
Yes.
And I think sometimes that's really hard for people to see or to
Sure.
buy into.
Yeah.
But that could also then go back down to what you just said is that maybe it's just not their passion.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, that's a huge heart that I have. And it's just like helping try to navigate
Yes.
people and come alongside of them, whether that's part of my team and figure out what success looks like for them because
Yes.
their success of what that looks like and is defined for them is going to probably be very different than mine.
Yes. Absolutely.
Um,
If I could add one more thought too, in the vein of what we're talking about here, if you go back to the root word media, okay, what the word actually comes from is it's a Latin word that means median or middle. Okay. So media is that vehicle that stands in between you and I, right? Where
mm,
I'm trying to communicate a message. And so we create media, something that's in the middle of you and I, or we're here right now, we're creating media that's going to be used in between us and the listening audience,
yeah,
right? And I personally feel that right now we're living in a time where it's really important for us to create media. It's time for our voices to be heard. It's time for people that, I don't know, how old are you, Michael, right now?
32.
32. Yeah, I'm a few years older than you. I just turned 40 last month. And there's a shift that happens in your 30s and 40s too, where you have enough life experience to
Yeah.
have some wisdom, but you're still young enough to have the energy, right, to start
Yeah.
creating. And I feel like you and I were kind of right in that sweet spot of where
Mhm.
it's time to start taking that wisdom and experience that you have
Yes.
and sharing it with the world. And media is such a powerful way to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think of it, I mean, I'm not trying to be melodramatic when I say this, but it feels a little bit like a holy assignment. It
Mm,
really does. Like
yeah.
when I'm sitting there with the sheriff and he's telling me stories about how he created this equine therapy, it's horse therapy for veterans. And he shares a story of a guy who comes back from battle and is literally doesn't even speak because he's so traumatized with PTSD. And yet he spends 2 weeks with this horse and something completely shifts in him. And there's a moment where he begins crying and weeping and embracing this horse. And then he begins speaking and he begins relating to, and you're just like listening. And it's like the power of media allows us to tell a story like that,
Yeah.
that most people aren't even aware is happening in your area.
Mhm.
Right. And so I don't know if there's any, you know, what is the benefit to me? I don't know. What's the benefit to CollinCounty.com? I don't know. But what I
Yeah.
do know in my soul is that story needed to be told
Yeah.
and it's important.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, and there's so much noise out there, and so many of us in different ways, and just maybe the age where we are, and so many different factors and chapters and seasons of life don't know how to express and get that story or that message or that
Mhm.
trauma out. And so that could maybe be counseling or that could be some other form of alleviation.
Mhm.
But man, I never really knew the definition of media. That's
Mhm.
so cool. I mean, that
Mhm.
gives me more almost it gives me appreciation for a lot of the really good media and storytelling I see,
Yes.
but then also helps give me some more light on just the path of like, okay, what am I trying to
Yes.
put out there in the
Mhm.
media and the value that it's bringing and all of
Mhm.
that stuff.
If you go back in time to when the Gutenberg press was invented, it absolutely was a turning point in history where all of a sudden books were being able to be distributed.
Mm,
Newspapers, the Bible was now to be able to
yeah,
be widely spread. And it was an absolute game changer for the world when that media was able to be created
yeah,
and distributed. And we are now living in that time where we have video,
mm,
audio, the written word. And I feel a responsibility to do my
yeah,
part in that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool. So how big is your team now? How many kind of team members do you have? What are some of their
Sure.
strengths and specialties?
Yeah, so I currently have 3 team members. We have an office here in, Adriatica Village
Yeah.
inside McKinney, which you've been to.
Yes.
We also have some other remote workers as well that help with some things.
Okay.
But yeah, I've got a guy on my team who's, really kind of our operational guy. And so in fact, we just got back from coffee this morning and thinking about some big things for the future operationally. As
Mhm.
our team grows and our organization grows, he's going to be even more instrumental in helping us streamline those systems.
Yeah.
And so really grateful to have him. He's also a content creator, so he writes most of our feature articles.
Mm.
And then we have someone on our team who is sort of the marketing mastermind behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And she has a team. She has her own team because she has a full 12-person marketing agency under her
Yeah.
wing. And so we consider her a team member, and she comes in for a lot of the marketing strategy. So when we work with advertisers, our goal is not just to say, hey, give us X amount of dollars and we'll put you on our website.
Hmm.
Our goal is to be a media force behind them
Yeah.
to help tell the story of their business, whether
Great.
that's showing up and creating a video or getting them on the podcast, having them sponsor a podcast, highlighting them in the email newsletter. A great example of this is Hotel Denison, which is this beautiful boutique hotel
Uh-huh.
that opened up just off 121.
Is it open now?
It is open.
Okay.
Yes, it's awesome. You should definitely,
Yes.
stop by.
Yeah, over there by Bob's Steakhouse. Off
Yes.
Alma and 121,
The
right?
district, yeah.
Yep.
104 rooms only. And I got a custom tour. I showed up. I did a video with the general manager, a wonderful
Yeah.
lady. And we created that, to highlight this local business, to
Mhm.
make sure that people could visualize it and see it in
Yeah.
action, right? And so that's the capability we have as a team is we're not just writing articles or putting you on a website. We're a full-fledged media team
That's
that
awesome.
comes around our constituents and helps
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
That's great. And could you share a little bit on? I think we chatted a little bit before you and I did the podcast at your studio, your
Yes.
space and office, of just kind of the big goal. You shared a little bit before and on now on just the steps with getting the website, the newsletter.
Sure.
You guys have some pretty big goals on like a number for newsletter people,
Yeah.
businesses to work with.
For
Is there a
sure.
cap?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, one of the great things, I'll start there. There's 1.2 million people currently in Collin County. It's
Yeah.
supposed to double by 2050.
No.
Okay, that's 2.4 million.
Can you give us a geographical visual of
Sure.
what Collin County is?
Yeah, yeah. So Collin County includes most of Frisco, all of McKinney, Plano, Fairview, Allen, and then as you go north, it
Yeah.
goes into Prosper, Salina, Melissa, Anna, which, by the way, those 4 cities are 4 of the top 10 fastest growing cities in the United States right now.
Wow.
And so most of that growth is all going north. So when you talk of
Yeah.
how do you go from 1.2 to 2.4, well, there's a ton of landmass north.
Yes.
And what McKinney looks like today is what Melissa's going to look like, Prosper's going to look like. And some of it's, looking
Yeah.
really nice. I mean, they're building out these master
Insane.
plan communities, and
There's still areas
it's
of
crazy.
McKinney that are being built out
Yes.
more north.
Yes. It's estimated that 50% of the land in McKinney isn't even developed yet. So, yeah, so McKinney is going to be huge. And so you asked me about our audacious goal.
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 that are practical, and I'll give you 1 that
Mm.
is more personal. Okay.
Awesome.
The 2 practical are we want to promote the best that's going on in Collin County.
Yeah.
Okay. The businesses and people, mostly in events.
Yep.
From a user standpoint, though, the average person that goes to that website, I want it to become the number 1 source of all the best things that are going on, almost like a search engine where
Yeah.
people who live here visit it often, and people that are looking to move here see it as a resource, a snapshot of
Yep.
really what Collin County is all about. But there's a bigger vision beyond that. And I'll just summarize it like this. I have this very vivid vision that personally I do believe is from God. One of my skills is that I'm an event producer. I did a lot of that
Cool.
before I moved to Texas, and events of all sizes. Did a lot of work with charity and nonprofits, a lot of fundraising events. I know that CollinCounty.com is going to host our own events at some point. And they're going to be based on what's going on in the community, celebrating what's going on in the community. I think we're going to have some awards we're going to give out at some point.
Yes.
But also, there's going to be a moment in time, and I've literally had this vision multiple times, where we're going to be at an event. There's going to be a lot of people there, and we're going to press a proverbial button, so to speak. and we're going to raise $1 million for charity
Wow.
in one day. You asked me for
Let's
audacious,
go.
okay?
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if that's literal or if that's
Yeah.
figure. I don't know, but
Mhm.
I know that what we're building now is a vehicle. It's a voice,
Yeah.
okay, and it's going to be something that I believe people are going to trust. They're going to turn to, and we're going to use it for good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think you gotta have those huge goals, and I have a lot of
Yes.
those similarly as well. Um, and man, as you continue to expand, you guys are obviously in Adriatica now. Do you guys see
Hmm.
yourself continue to stay there? Do you maybe see some like additional little pockets of offices throughout Collin County with
Sure.
it growing to possibly 2.4 million
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
over what's kind of the year range,
I want
you
to say
know?
it's 2050 that they
Okay.
projected. So 25 years. Yeah.
Wow. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, well, to answer your question, currently we really love our offices. There's a little bit of room to expand in that building.
Okay.
So we're kind of taking over one wing of that building
Yeah.
in Adriatica. Those buildings are a little more boutique feeling, so they're not huge.
Yep.
So if we do get to that point where we need to expand, sadly, we might have to leave that building, which we really don't want to.
Yeah.
So we're going to maximize that building. We've got a nice conference room, a couple other offices. We're going to maximize that as much as we can, and then kind of go
Hmm.
from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And do you guys kind of have a process that you could shed some light on if I am a business owner, I'm someone here in the Collin County area that says, man, I think I'm one of the best in my niches
sure,
and I've got
sure.
that passion.
Yeah,
Is there, I don't want to say like an application process, but connecting with you, how do you kind of vet some of that
sure,
respectfully and
sure.
safely?
Yeah,
And that might be a possible, I want to say road bump in the future of like filtering through,
sure,
the best.
sure. Great question. This is something that we are working through right now.
Yeah.
The simplest answer is, you can contact us through the website. There's an
Hmm.
advertise button there, and people do. Usually on a weekly or monthly basis. We get leads coming in with people that are interested pretty
Yeah.
regularly now, and now we're in that season of navigating. How do we discern who's the right fit?
Yep.
What metrics do we use? It's a combination of personal interaction. Okay. We want
Mm,
to get to know you, like you, trust you, kind of a thing.
of course.
And then we do go online. We look at what are other people saying about you,
Yep.
right? What does your Google reviews say, your Yelp reviews, et cetera. Um, just this morning with my colleague Nick, he suggested that we ask for a couple references of
Mm,
other, business owners or even past clients and customers.
yeah.
The other thing that we're looking at adding is some AI tools, because there are AI tools
Wow.
now that can kind of scan the internet and can determine with a pretty good degree of accuracy which reviews are fake and which are real. Because there's a lot of people that have reviews that are not real. Now, whether they initiated that or somebody got mad and did a fake review, or there's shady things like competitors trying to ruin each other's
Hmm.
businesses, all that junk. So there are AI tools coming out now that can help navigate some of that kind of
Wow.
stuff. So it's a combination of in person, getting to know you, vetting you in person, talking to your clients and customers, and then deciphering what the online landscape is saying
Yeah.
about you. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's pretty wild with the AI. It's growing a ton.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah. And I
it
mean, of
is.
course, are you guys tapping into that at all within some of the writing as well, or just continuing to keep that in house, keeping it
Sure. Good
personal?
question. That's a great question. So, right now, everything that we have is written by humans,
Yep.
everything. And if we ever do include any sort of AI copywriting, one of the things there is that I'm a copywriter and I've
Hmm.
got two copywriters on my team. And so we have an advantage that we are actually good writers, for
Yeah.
the most part, and we enjoy writing. Whether that's sustainable on a large scale as this thing really grows
Mm,
is debatable. There are also other factors at play, like for a long time, Google was penalizing AI written content.
yeah.
And so we don't want to get into any of that, especially being essentially a local search engine. We want to have the maximum amount of SEO. And so that's something I'm really cautious about as I
Very true.
don't. But here's what it comes down to at the end of the day. We are in that interesting in between time where AI is really taking off. if we were to 10 years from now look back at this podcast, we might chuckle a little bit at this conversation because things will be so different,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to make blanket statements like we will never use AI writing
Yeah.
because there are certain processes now where you can run it through a few filters and it can
Mhm.
sound very human, indistinguishable to the consumer. But the question that I have right now in 2024 is, how do we keep that integrity? And
Mhm.
that's the big thing that I'm going for is if we ever do introduce AI copywriting, I want it to be done with integrity, where
Of course.
minimally it's been reviewed by humans,
Yes.
and we've said yes, this sounds just like if my colleague Nick wrote it, right?
100%. Yeah.
And that's just what I want to make sure is that we are putting out something for the consumer that is
Yep.
is really high quality.
Yeah, it still passes through the filters of your personality, your the business personality, your team's personality,
Yes.
your character, your reach, the impact you're trying to make, the value and services you offer. Same,
Yes.
totally. And I mean, there's with any type of new thing or even new models of vehicles, there's always pushback because we're so used to what we already have.
Sure.
People don't like change, but we do want evolution and growth and change.
Yes.
And it's getting comfortable with it. How do we evolve it and um, work with it to help us, fine tune and simplify our processes,
Yes.
but also not lose who we are through that process.
And that's going to be a challenge for us moving into the future as humans, as content creators,
Yeah.
is how do we keep our soul?
Yep.
And that's going to be a daily thing we're going to have to address
Yep.
in the content that we create, in the content that we consume. And I think if it comes down to a core issue, that's the core issue. We want our publication to have a soul
Yeah.
that is recognizable and that people know that we're real people that care about businesses, community leaders, events. We care about this community.
100%. Yeah, I recently saw a post on social media of a dad just talking about how we just changed and with our processed foods and we try to create interaction with our social media and just how we have humans have just changed all of just the real basics
Hmm.
and the connection that we need with people in person. The food of just going back to, the normal of like one sourced proteins and things that
Yes.
aren't processed and have 5,000 different ingredients in it. And he was just sharing that in a way too of just getting back to the basics. And that's another reason why I still believe and have a hope of the in-person training and in-person in the sense of health and wellness with the field that
Hmm.
I'm in. And then even just doing this podcast and going back to the comment you just made of what's podcasting gonna look like. Like I one of my non-negotiables I've shared with Michael and I've shared it on the podcast before is to do in-person
Hmm.
podcasting.
Hmm.
I have had people ask about doing Zoom because they're not here, or man, I could connect sooner
Sure.
if we did it via Zoom. And I'm just like, man, that's not the heartbeat and the plan I have and I want to do.
Exactly.
Because I want to see eye to eye and I want to have conversations before and after and build a
Yes.
human connection.
Yes.
And that's where I believe and continue to have hope. And I think there's, of course, obviously a biblical factor there. Like we're
Absolutely.
meant to be around people and have community and build authentic relationships. And sitting down with someone and having a conversation, I gain a lot of energy and joy out of it. So,
Yes.
you know,
Yes. And that's a real thing. And even before we recorded today, you took me down the strip of your
yeah,
office complex here and were telling me all about the other business owners and even introduced me to someone in one
yeah,
of the businesses. And, you don't get that on Zoom.
yeah.
You just
No,
don't.
you can't for sure. And even with doing one to one or like networking events via Zoom. I've done those as well, and it's just not you can have the camera up just enough where you can kinda look at your phone while
Yeah.
you're down or you see their eyes down, you're like,
Yeah.
"I know you're not listening right now."
Yeah.
So yeah, that human interaction is just it's gonna continue to be a need no matter how much we try to unauthenticate, if that's a word,
Sure. Sure.
uh, it via media or,
Hmm.
online.
I'll give you a quick example. The first video interview I did for CollinCounty.com was a local roofing company.
Okay.
And, we had our typical conversation, asked him about his business, great business, been in the community a long time. But then towards the end, he started talking about the fact that he does a once a year gala for a bunch of nonprofits that he supports through his business and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And by the end of the conversation, but by now the cameras were off and we're just chatting. And I said, hey, man, I have some experience in event production. Let me come and support your event. And that turned into him. I asked him a very pointed question, which is, again, cameras were off at this point. We said, hey, what's a need or a challenge that you're experiencing in your business that you could use some help with? He had
Mm,
a specific answer. I knew a person that could help
yep.
him with that problem. I connected him with that
Yep.
person, turned into a consulting engagement that helped him in his business. And again, that stuff doesn't happen often over Zoom. It
Yeah.
was that human interaction where even beyond the interview, we were
Hmm.
able to turn the cameras off and develop a relationship.
Yes. So much value there
Yeah.
for sure. I got a question for you guys as y'all continue to grow. CollinCounty.com is, let's say you have a big player, a business that does have good reviews, does have, those things, maybe has even some, grounded roots in the community, grew up
Sure.
here, went to schools, maybe in the Collin County area, but the business is massive. You have
Hmm.
another guy who's a smaller player,
Hmm.
maybe similar story, that's trying to thrive and expand in a
Sure.
very populated niche. How do you vet, which one to go
Mm.
to?
Good
Which
question.
a guy that
Good
might be able
question.
just to have money to throw at more advertising and
Sure. Sure.
build his massive ocean where someone else is like, I'm
Just
coming, I'm
up and
trying to
coming.
rise the
Yeah.
tide.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, our entire team has a real heart for small business. Okay. We've all been
Yeah.
small business owners. We've been small business marketers. We've just spent a lot of time in that world. And so we naturally gravitate towards those, what would be classified as small business,
Mhm.
which could still be up to, a few million a year
Yeah.
in revenue,
Yeah. Yeah.
but still, so we do tend to gravitate towards those. We try to create promotional packages that are accessible.
Mhm.
Minimally, we want people to get listed on the website so that they're searchable in our
Yep.
database and we can promote them on a regular basis. And then for those, more premium clients that can afford it, then we do try to offer,
Yeah.
some of those uh, media packages that are larger and even exclusivity, right?
Yeah.
We have, for instance, we have a land broker who does a great job locally here in Collin County, and we give him exclusivity because he can afford it. And we don't talk about any other land brokers,
Mhm.
right? But just this guy. And so, we're finding that balance. We haven't come up to a situation yet where, let's say, we have an owner of a large painting company versus a startup painting company,
Yeah.
and we have to make a decision. We haven't had that come up yet, thankfully.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to make room for everybody where we have a searchable database. You can go in there and still find, Joe's painting,
Yeah.
and then you can find, the top dog who's been doing it
Yeah.
for 20 years. And so we're trying to create space for everybody,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yep. Makes total sense. That's great. I love that, man. And tell me a little bit more about your family. How are you juggling all of this and
Sure.
Bill in Collin County and just some, you're not just, that's not just who you are.
Yeah, yeah,
What are
yeah.
you outside of
Yeah,
CollinCounty.com?
yeah. Well, I spent many years in occupational ministry at churches. So I have a background in music. I played music
Yeah.
for many years. I've been a professional drummer. I've been a worship leader for churches.
Let's go.
Yeah, and this is my main focus now. Is this business. I also have three beautiful kids. They keep me busy outside of work. So if I'm not
Mhm.
working, hanging out with the family. And I will say I'm blessed that my passion and my work are definitely integrated.
Yep.
I'm definitely on that side of the coin that says rather than looking at it as a work life balance, it's more of a work life integration,
Uh,
right? We might have talked about this when you came
yeah.
on my podcast, and so for me, I love to have sort of a cadence in rhythm in life where you're sort of weaving in and out of work and play
Yeah.
or work and personal work and
Yeah.
whatever. It's not so much I work 9 to 5 and then I play 5 to 10. It's more
Yeah.
like, no, I'm kind of working, a little bit of play, working, a little bit of play, see my kids, working, play, working, play. Even in my personal relationships, they tend to revolve around projects, whether it's,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to run a fundraising event for this nonprofit, or we're going to start a conference, or we're going to,
Yeah.
go take care of this advertiser and make a video. They sort of all kind of interweave.
Hmm.
And so my day starts in the morning and ends when I go to sleep. And I don't feel like there's a differentiation of
Yeah.
I started working at this point and then I stopped and started playing. I feel like it's just all woven
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Think if my wife heard that, she would look at me. and be like, you should.
You should try
I do
that.
that, but I think what I'm trying to say is that I find myself, and it's only me putting the stress on me,
Sure.
finding the stress in, oh, I got to go run and pick up my son from school, and okay, take off the work hat for a sec, and then,
Sure.
but then also I can be in family and then get too worky,
Mhm.
and get distracted. So
Mhm.
of course a balance, but I
Yes.
do agree. Like there's just that desire and that heart and the passion and the purpose of what I'm doing, that I love building the connections. And in our networking group, we always talk about the me too's, like finding
Mhm.
those me too's. Oh, you're from
Mhm.
McKinney? Me too.
Yep.
Oh, you went here for school? Me too. You have siblings? Me too. Like
Mhm.
building and seeing those walls come down and build relationships is, and adding value and connection through
Mhm.
those. And
Mhm.
so that ties in with what you're saying on just
Yes.
that weave.
Yes.
And
Even what we're doing here now, like, is this work or is this hobby or is this passion? It,
yeah,
it doesn't really matter. It's all the same. We're
100%.
here and we're living out our purpose.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's the even just doing this podcast, I do it 'cause I wanna be able to have these authentic connections and
Mhm.
relationships and conversations with people, walk around the building, and then be like, "Oh, hey, I know this guy, I wanna connect him with you," and
Yes.
that's real, that's authentic,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it is work, but it also it is play, like, it's so
Exactly.
fun,
Mhm.
and it's just gives me so much energy and
That's awesome.
joy through what I do. But man, I love that you got to come on here. I love that I got to know more about you, your heartbeat, what you guys are doing over at collincounty.com. Um, but I guess twofold here as we finish and wrap up. Could you share, as a business owner, you already did a little bit, but the process of like, man, I like this story. I like what they're trying to do, the impact they're making. I want to be
Sure.
a part of that. And then
Mhm.
secondly, I'm a consumer. I've been in McKinney, Collin County, Plano, Allen, all of those you named, and I want to find some of the best spots.
Yes.
What does that look
Yes.
like?
Well, okay, so starting with the first question, um, what was your first question? I
Just
just blanked.
be in the
Sorry.
business, you shared a little bit about, like, wanting to connect, you can go online and kind of
Oh, yes.
apply
And
or
well, and then you asked how do you find your stories, I think.
uh-huh,
Might have been where you were going with that. So part of our process is we have the advantage of living and working in this community. And
mhm,
so I mentioned Hotel Denison. The reason I went after that story is because I kept driving by
yeah,
and I kept seeing this
yeah,
cool boutique hotel and I'm like, man, I personally love hotels. I love
yes,
the design of them. I kind of a guilty pleasure. I will
mm,
go to a nice hotel when I'm not staying there and just hang out in the lobby or go to the lounge or work and use the
love that,
Wi-Fi,
yeah,
order some food or drink or something just to participate. But I have a love for hotels. And so that was a great story. So I just cold emailed the developer and
mm,
got a response, pretty quickly.
dude,
The first advertiser we got, I happened to see his ad pop up on my Facebook feed. And I said, huh, that's interesting. This guy would be perfect for our
yeah,
publication. Clicked through, emailed him. Within 7 minutes, he emailed me back
wow,
and said, I'm interested. Right.
let's
That
go,
never happens. That
yeah,
never happens. And so within 2 weeks, he was a paying advertiser, and we've had a great relationship.
yeah,
Other ways are just driving around, seeing different restaurants. There's local Facebook groups that highlight
uh-huh,
great food. I think Collin County Foodies is a great Facebook page, and so I'll go
mm,
on there. Like for instance, there's a great restaurant right now that opened recently called Seeger and Sons, and
okay,
everybody keeps talking about it, right? And I mean, literally, just
yeah,
everybody every week there's a post about Seeger and Sons, and I'm like, okay, this is a story, right? This
yeah,
has to be a
yeah,
story. Everybody loves this place. And so it just happens from being in the community. I go to a lot of networking groups,
mhm,
meet people there, find out about people's stories. And then they happen through connection.
yeah,
I
of
know that
course,
you're going to introduce me to some people, right? You were
yeah,
an introduction from
yeah,
another business
yeah,
owner. And so I would say, all of the
that's
above.
great,
And then, yeah, as far as finding great restaurants, businesses, we host feature articles on our website. We have a searchable database. We have the email newsletter is a big deal. A lot of
yeah,
people love that we do food reviews in every
mm,
episode or every publication. We try to include a podcast episode, a food review, a feature article, sometimes a
yeah,
piece of history, even
okay,
about the history of Collin County.
nice,
And so the easiest way to connect with us is to just go to collincounty.com and sign up for the email newsletter.
cool.
Yeah.
Are you, hiring food people that you need to go taste
I
that?
know.
I'm
Hey,
sure you'd have a
you
lot of
know,
people in line for that.
well, for us though, it's a tax write-off. So, we'll just go
Yeah,
grab lunch sometime. I'll say, hey, you want to go to Seeger and Sons?
dude, yes, that's a
It's a
double
great idea.
whammy.
We should do it.
That's a double whammy because 'cause you're getting to taste and
Exactly. It's a
explore.
win-win.
Yeah,
Everybody wins.
that's so cool. I love that. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. I know you just shared where to just find you, collincounty.com. And yeah, I mean, as you guys continue to launch out your social media platforms, have those officially gone live?
Yeah, they are live.
Okay.
We intentionally created those later in the game. So,
Yep.
our primary is our website, podcast, email, newsletter, and then you'll see the social start to grow over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. You guys can find them there. And yeah, reach out. I mean, obviously, Joseph is a very inviting guy. Would love to have a conversation. I've enjoyed the conversations we've had. And yeah, go use them as a valuable resource for your own personal business, and or just to be a consumer of the awesome businesses that are here in Collin County.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.